Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode in Software Engineering and Salesforce. My name is Brooks Johnson, and today we're going to take a kind of a deep look at strings. Based on some questions I think I've seen floating around on LinkedIn and Reddit, and some problems we've been trying to put together on apexsandbox.io. So we are going to build our own string reversal algorithm today. We are going to build our own string to lower to upper algorithms today. Show how you can do that and hopefully maybe demystify some of the things that I think are very confusing for a new developer with the string class and maybe set you up for success in a job interview. So stick around. It's going to be a good one. All right, so when we talk about strings in Apex, so the first thing to remember is string is a class. And it's all right, everybody. So one of the things I want to talk about, really common job interview questions for a new developer can be things like, can you reverse a string for me? Can you uppercase a string? Things like that. And yes, there are built-in methods, right? There is, string.reverse. Your interviewer, I promise you, does not want to see you use the built-in method. I mean, it's better than nothing. Absolutely. And if that's all you got, go for it. But you might be asking, and I think this frustrates people sometimes, like, why am I getting asked how to do things when the language does that for me? And I agree in the sense of 100 times out of 100 in production code, I'm just going to call string.reverse, right? I am never going to build my own string reversal algorithm. That's just dumb. But in an interview setting, and if I asked you this question, here's why. I want to see, do you really understand what's going on? Do you really understand strings? And do you really understand how to code? Anybody can call string.reverse. But if you don't understand strings and you don't understand how to code, you won't be able to write your own reversal algorithm. And it's actually really simple. So we're going to walk through this stuff, and I think it's going to be good and useful. So I guess the first couple things to keep in mind before we get started, I want to talk about, it's important to understand strings are immutable in Apex. That means a Apex job, I think most programming languages, so they can't be changed. Once you create a string object, so let's say I have string, first name equals Brooks, and then you could, people like what, I can concatenate. You're actually creating a new string object on the heap, right? You're not modifying your original string. So it's important to understand, first, with these sorts of problems, strings are immutable. That means they can't be changed once you create them. Next one, this throws people off. Strings are not iterable, right? You cannot iterate over a string, right? You can't throw it in a for loop and for string, at index I. But there are some other ways you can work around that. And the last one we're going to talk about is, and this will become hopefully clear in a second, is ASCII. And the reason I'm saying it is, so first of all, let's just get in here. And I'm going to write a string, because I've seen a few people asking about this lately, and they were pretty confused. And I think it confused me when I first ran into this. So we're going to say, string demo, and I think I'm going to do the whole day today in just anonymous Apex. String demo equals hello. Okay? And then I'm just going to run this through a for loop. We're going to say demo dot length. All right, everything else looks good there. And I'm going to do system debug. I'm just going to print it out to the console. I'm going to do demo dot char at I. Okay? Because at first you see this and you're like, okay, well, this looks like how I iterate over a string. And I guess, and in a way it is, right? So we are going to call char at I. And let's run this and see what we get. Okay, I'm going to set debug only. And I'm going to, let me zoom in here. Give us a little more real estate today. Make this better. Okay, so now what you can see there is I've actually got a bunch of numbers. All right, so this is important. Char at returns integers. It doesn't return strings. If we actually wanted to just break this up into a list of strings, you could call split on it. But for right now, we're going to work with our problems today using char at. That's kind of my go-to. So you may be wondering, but I called char at I, and char at I, say for my first index 0, that's an H. But over here, in my terminal, well, I've got a 104. Whoa. So you're like, huh? This is the ASCII representation of your character. So let's go to our ASCII table. I've got that ready to go. Okay, so we're going to zoom in a little, and let's just look over here. Right? So ASCII is the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. This is kind of the old way to represent values before Unicode. So it's a numerical representation of characters. Right, and we've got decimal, we've got hexadecimal, right, octal, etc. So here's what I want us to pay attention to for today, right? For everything we would really use in a string, and this one could be important too. 32, the number, right, or decimal 32, that's a space. But for today, right, like this is our ASCII representation of the letter A. Lowercase is 97, uppercase is 65. So we go to H. Right, and 104 is the letter H. 72 is uppercase H. And the other, I want you to notice here, then this is important, these things are separated by a value of 32. Right, so uppercase A, 65, lowercase a, 97. So for all of these in the English alphabet, they are separated by a value of 32. And that lets us do some cool things. And all our other symbols, if we cared about numbers or, it's all right here. So let's go back on over to our anonymous apex. All right, so there we had our 104. So now hopefully I want this just to clear up that first mystery, right? When I can't iterate over a string, but I can use a for loop like this, and I can get the ASCII value at that location from the string. So now, let's just say we wanted to, I'm going to open up a new anonymous Apex window here. And again, I'm going to just adjust our real estate here. And let's say I go into an interview, and they're like, all right, Brooke, write us an algorithm, capitalize a string, right? Capitalize a string without calling, say, to uppercase. Or to upper, whatever the method name is in Apex. So once again, I'm going to do string demo, and this time I'm going to do all lowercase values. Hello world. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these into a char array. So I'm going to make a list. New list. Whoa. Always happens when Camtasia is running. My keyboard runs away. New list of integers. I'm going to call it my char array. New list integers. There we go. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do now, just like I showed you before, we are going to iterate over our string. And demo dot length. All right, and now what I'm going to do is, just like I showed you earlier, right? So now we have this for loop, and I can get the ASCII value at each index in the string. And so I'm just going to do, to make this nice and simple and readable, I'm going to say integer character equals demo dot char at I, all right? And now what I want to do, because remember when we looked at that ASCII table, our uppercase and our lowercase values were separated by a value of 32. So I could say if, right? If character, and well, you know what? Let's go back. They're separated by 32. And in fact, I'm going to go look at my ASCII table. All my lowercase letters are between a value of 97 and 122. All right. So I can say, right, if my character is greater than or equal to 97, or character less than or equal, my code completion is trying to help me there. But let's make sure 126 is the right value. No, yeah, 122. We want 122. All right. So if it is in that, if it's in that range that we just looked at on the ASCII table, and not 162, what we want to do is we're going to add it to our char array, but we're going to subtract 32 from it. Char array add character minus 32. So, and then we can just say else. All right. Char array.add character. Otherwise, we're just going to add the character. That means it's already, we thought it was already, right, an uppercase character. And down here, now we're out of our for loop. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do system.debug. Because we've got this char array now, right? We have this list of integers, right, that contains ASCII representations of a string. And I can just call string dot from char array, and pass in my char array variable that I created up here, and let's run it. Okay, and we can see that we I took my space out by accident, but you see we did create the hello world, or we did uppercase everything through. And then we are gonna, so if we wanted to show, like, we're gonna ignore, if it's an uppercase H, we're just gonna continue to ignore it. Okay, so now, if we wanted to create our own, say, lowercase method, because we understand that ASCII representation of our strings, how we can work with that, it's pretty simple to do, really. So I'm just going to create a new string. And again, I'm just going to call it string demo equals, and I'm going to make it all lowercase. Hello world. I'm going to give myself a new list of integers because I'm going to need something to store I'm going to call it my char array. I'm going to need that now, right? I said I can't iterate over the string, but I can put it use a for loop and get the ASCII value at each index, right? So I equals 0, I equals less than demo.length plus plus, and then I'm going to just say what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab at each index, make this nice and readable. I'm going to say integer character equals demo.char at I. All right, so now we've got the ASCII value for that character in our string. And if we remember our ASCII table, but let's go back and take a look at it anyway. All right, we could see, so our lowercase values, right? So everything between 97 and 122, those are lowercase letters in the English alphabet. And we can convert them to upper by subtracting 32 from them. So this would actually be a good point. If you've got this solved, pause the video and code it up, and then we can look at my solution. Okay, but let's go up. Wrong. I wanted my anonymous Apex window open. That's for another video. All right, so I'm going to say if my character is greater than, not equal to, greater than, equal to 97, and characters less than, are equal to 122. We're going to add it to the array, but we're going to subtract 32 from it. So I'm going to say char array.add character. Minus 32. Otherwise, we're just going to add it to the array. I should say list, but we're just going to add it to our character array. And we'll say, let's go up here, we'll just do an else. Else character array.add character. Okay. And now our last step, right? So remember, we've converted the ASCII representations, but I'm still stuck with this just list of integers. But that's no problem. All right? All we have to do, I'm just going to go down. I'm going to go down here, get out of the for loop. We'll do system.debug, print to the console, and I'm going to say string dot from char array. So there's Apex provides that for us, right? It's just going to take that array of the ASCII values, the char array, and it's going to give us a string. All right, so let's run this. Debug only. And look at that. We have uppercase. So there we go. We built a 2 uppercase algorithm, right? All on our own. And you could see, I mean, you just flip the script here, and you could do a 2 lowercase. And, just a test, right? We'll put an uppercase in there, right? That should just get ignored and added to our values. And there we go. Everything works. So that's how you would do, again, so now we're taking steps in the right direction, right? We know our strings are immutable. We know we can't iterate over strings, but we do know we can get the ASCII value at every index. We understand how those ASCII values work, how we can manipulate them a little bit, and how we can convert the ASCII values back to a string. So now we're going to reverse a string. All right. Maybe a little bit, maybe tricky. I don't know. Maybe it's not trickier at all. But again, you could very easily, I feel like, see these sorts of things in an interview. And yeah, I mean, saying, well, I'd call reverse on, I guess it's better than nothing. But this proves that if you can do this, it proves that you understand you understand strings, and you can actually code. You can actually solve problems on your own. And that's really what your interviewer wants to see. So now let's reverse a string. Reverse a string, okay? I'm going to give us a little more real estate here. I'm going to zoom in a little, make this a little bigger. I know sometimes I see in comments if you're watching from a mobile device or something. And so what's a good string? Again, I'm just going to call it test equals and carnival. Okay, that seems like a good word to reverse. It's not too short, not too long, got a good mix of letters in it. All right. Just like before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a list that I can store my integers in. I'm going to call it my char array. Okay. And I'm sure you guys like before. Now we're going to iterate over this thing so we can get the ASCII value at each one of our locations. Integer I is less than test dot length I++. All right, perfect. Now what we want to do is we're going to convert this thing to we're just going to put all these ASCII values, we're going to put all the char ats into our character array. I'm going to say char array test.char at I, right? Simple. So we've iterated over, we put, in fact, let's debug it, right? I'm going to print to the console right here, and we can see what we got. Char array. All right. Debug only. Okay, so you can see over there, right? We just, just like we said, it's a statically typed language. We've got a list of integers. Okay. Now the trick is to reverse these. So what I need to do, at each one of these, I need to go through and I need to swap 99 and 108. I need to swap 97 and 97, right? And Yeah, like that, right? I need to swap 110, 118, and 105 should not move. So I guess for a bonus in here, if you are starting off in your career, we're going to implement a simple swap algorithm on top of this, right? So to me, and first of all, there are many other ways to reverse a string in Apex. This is just one. And I encourage you to play with others, right? How else? There's a lot of ways to solve this problem. You could solve it recursively. You could solve it with a stack. There's lots of ways. This is one way. So I encourage you, go find two or three other ways you could reverse a string. To me, problems like this scream for a two-pointer solution. So what that means, I'm going to create integer. I usually call mine left. I'm going to say that equals 0. Because I want that pointer, right, to point to the left side of my list here at 99. I want another integer, another pointer, and I usually call mine right. Right is going to equal char array.size -1. Well, inside the semicolon helps. -1, and I'm going to reduce size here a little bit, give us a little more space. So now I've got another pointer that I can use here, right, to point over at 108. So that's kind of our initial, how we're setting this up. One pointing at the left-hand side, one pointing at the right-hand side. Then we just do a while loop. While left is less than right. All right. And just about any time you're doing a two-pointer type solution, this is going to be your next step, is while left is less than right. And now we just are going to walk through our list, and we are going to swap our values. So what we need to do first, anytime you're swapping in a language like Apex, is I'm going to say integer temp. And you could do this with either one, but I'm going to set it equal to char array left. Okay? So now I've got this temp variable. I've grabbed 99, and I stuck it in my variable, right, that I've labeled, my integer that I've labeled temp. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say char array left. I'm going to take the value at char array right, which is 108, and I'm going to stick it in. I'm going to swap those. And then because I can increment right there, I'm just going to do that. Left plus plus equals char array right. All right. And because I did that, right, and this is why the temporary variable is important. Otherwise, I would have lost it, right? It's gone. I've already taken 108 and I've put it over here in 99. So that's why I have to keep track of it in that temporary variable. All right. Now all I have to do is say char array right minus minus equals temp. And let's go down here. And once again, we're just going to do a system.debug string dot from char array char array. And let's see what we get. All right, look at that. It worked. Holy cow. You can see we took these values, all right? And we reversed our string of carnival to Lavinrack, right? That looks right to me. So let's talk a little bit about what we did here. All right, so we created our string, created a list of integers, right? That we're going to hold our values in. We created a for loop. And we didn't really iterate over our string in a sense because they're not iterable, but we did grab the ASCII value at each location. Okay, and we stuck that in our list of integers up here, char array. We drop down here to a two-pointer solution. Two-pointer solution, right? This is the typical way, hey, left-hand side, right? Usually 0 something, the start of the list. Right-hand side is the end of the list. You got 2 pointers, lets you compare values in some sort of a linear data structure like this. While left is less than right, because each time through we are going right, we're going to plus plus left, and we're going to minus minus right. and we create this temporary variable. You don't create the temporary variable, you will not be able to swap. It's all going to blow up. All right. And then, right, all we do is we just step through and we swap. And if you have not seen this syntax before, right, this is just, I don't know, maybe it's the lazy man's way to do it. But I can say, like, you, instead of then, right, having a couple more lines of code, left plus plus or right minus minus, you can just do it right in here. And this is saying use, then increment. Use, then decrement. And that's how that works. All right, so I hope this was useful for you. I hope maybe if you see, hopefully we'll have some problems up on apexsandbox.io that you can go in and you can practice these techniques on. If you see it in an interview, I have no doubt you will crush it on the whiteboard. And if it was helpful to you, take a second. Please thumbs up. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Hit like and subscribe. And I'll see everybody in the next one. Keep practicing. Keep on getting better.